Alright, so this is my remote controlled LED light using an Arduino UNO. So let me just give you a small showcase of how this works. So I have a remote control here, and if I click the on button, well, it turns it on. Actually, let me just turn off the light here, just so you can see the LED better. Ooh, that's a little bright. So that's if I turn on the on button. If I turn it off, it turns off. I could turn it on and click the button number 1 to actually change the colors. So I'm actually turn the light back on here. You kind of see that the color's changing. So this is like a nice reddish yellow, orange maybe, a nice blue, green. So it's completely randomized. And if we want to turn it off, again, click the off button. And if we turn it back on, it saves the color that we had last time. So let me just show you a quick preview of how this works. So basically, let me get my pencil here. We have a remote control that when we send a signal, we have an IR receiver that sends it to the Arduino. It processes the input and it generates an output value for our LED. It generates a random red, green, and blue value as seen by these 3 wires. So basically what happens is we have an IR sensor here. Let me just turn this off for a bit so this doesn't blind you. Oh, wrong button. This is our IR sensor. It's connected through ground. You can see here this whole channel on the breadboard, the negative channel, goes to the ground pin on the Arduino. We have a 5-volt wire, which is the orange wire, going through 5 volts. We have a yellow wire, which connects to our pin 6, which is the input of the sensor. So that's the whole sensor module part. Then we have an RGB LED connected by some very awkwardly connected red, green, and blue wires, which go through these pins. These are 9, 10, and 5 pins. And they correspond to the red, green, and blue pins of the LED. And we just have a resistor going through the main ground channel. Yeah, that's basically how it works. Again, let me just show you. On, off, on, and 1 just randomizes the color. So, and actually, all of these parts are found in this Super Starter UNO R3 project kit by Elegoo. I'll just link that in the description. So, how does this work? So the way this works is through this code. Let me just clear the output here. So I have this code that actually runs the entire thing. So this part right here, the irremote.h, this is just importing a library for the IR sensor. And then we define max time. This just goes for the timing between on and off states. We have these 2 lines, IR receive and decode results. This is just taking this is just setting the pin number 6. As you can see here, pin 6 connects to our yellow wire, which connects to the input part of our receiver module. And then decode results, it just decodes the results that the module is returning. Last press time, that goes with the max time for timing between on and off states. We have our on and button 1, or B1 actually. So what does it mean? So on the remote control here, each button has its own value when it's seen through the receiver. So right here I'll show you through the serial monitor. If we click, let's say, on, or not on, let's use a different one, 0, right? Once you do 0 here, it returns a couple of values. Well, not a couple, it returns this value right here, 167, blah, blah, blah. These 429 is just what happens if you hold it down. So let me show you here. If I hold down 0, it just returns a bunch of 429s. But if I just click it once, oops, 1 second, that's the on. I click it once, it goes to the 16738, blah, blah, blah. And I found where's my cursor? I found the values for the on and off. So the on button, if we click the on button, that has 167, 53245, which is the same value here, and button 1, if I click 1 right there, 167.24175, and that goes to the button 1 variable here. Then I have these variables, red, green, and blue. That's responsible for the startup of our program. So if I just reset using the reset button here, when I turn it on for the first time, it always starts off as red by default, just because that's just on. Like the maximum amount for these analog pins, or these pins I mean, is 255, and these are just the maximum for those pins. And then I set the red pin, the green pin, and the blue pin for pin mode later. And I also have a state, a boolean called state, which just defaults to false. This is just the on or off state of our LED. So here's our first function. This is a function that I made called RGB color. It takes in 3 inputs, has 3 parameters: red value, green value, and blue value, which are all integers. And what it does is just outputs these RGB values through analog write to the desired pin. So a red pin takes in the red value, and so on. Here we have the setup function, which we start the serial connection. Then we have the pin mode for the red pin, green pin, and blue pin. This just tells the Arduino, okay, we're going to use these pins for output only. Then we have this function here to start the receiver, which actually goes back the IR receive thing. It goes back here when we said IR receive up here. So then we have the loop here. Let's just scroll down a bit. So we have an if statement to check to see if we received a code. So what happens is if this remote and sensor does not work, basically it returns a 0. So if it's not a 0 and it actually received a code, we print the code that it received, and we also have another if statement inside, which just checks if we press the on button. So let's say we did click the on button. If we click the on button, it has this time, and we go here to the state. So what this does, it assigns state as the opposite of itself. So that's a little complicated to understand, but let's say we start the program and the state is off. And if we do click the on button, the state is now the opposite of off, which is on. And if it's on and we go through the on button, it becomes the opposite of on. So really it just toggles back and forth. So if it's on, it becomes off. If it's off, it becomes on. And then we have another if statement here. So if results.value is 1, is button 1. So this just means if we click button 1, what happens? We assign some random RGB values using the random function, which is built into the Arduino library itself. So it's an exclusive function that picks a value between 0 and 256, excluding 256. So it really just picks a number between 0 and 255. And that goes for red, green, and blue variables. And then here we have the if state. This just means if the LED should be on, we do our RGB color function and we pass in our red, green, and blue values that we see here. And I have a really ugly print statement here, print collection here. Let me just clear the output here. If you can see it, clear output. So really what this does is just for the purpose of the video. So let's say I turn it on. It just shows these things, the red value, the green value, and the blue value. I might have to fix this later before I show the code in the comments or somewhere. And then finally I have an else statement. So if it is off, so like if it's not on, then we set the RGB color to 0. Which really, it's not 0, it's more like all of it is off. Because the values we input through RGB color is just how much power is going through these red, green, and blue pins or wires. So 0 just means no power at all. So I'll just show that to you now. So that means if we turn it off, 0 power is going through the red, green, or blue pins to the LED, which is why it's off. And finally, at the end, we just have irreceive.resume, which just tells the IR receiver to keep looking for input. So yeah, that's the code that I use for this project. I'll probably link it in the description, on the website, maybe in the comments. I'll put it somewhere for you guys to see. And yeah, that is the project. I'm not sure if I told you yet, but all the parts here are from this super starter kit, which I will also link in the description below. Alright, that was my project. Thanks for watching.